I was on the subway this morning on my way back from a networking breakfast. I was listening to an Audible book. The chapter that was being covered was leadership and characteristic traits of successful long-term leaders. The first thought that came to my mind was Trump has none of these characteristics, but my mind started to wander and strangely started to wander towards the Squid Games, and I started to think what characteristics or what lessons can be learned from Squid Games in terms of real estate investing, and what can some of the games actually teach you about real estate investing. I don't have the same budget as Mr. Beast, but perhaps you could show some love anyway and give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. For those of you who don't know what Squid Games is, I'm not sure where you've been, but basically very quickly, I won't dwell on this. It's a Netflix show, a Korean-based Netflix show where 456 participants go in and play a game to win a large life-changing sum of money. The problem is there can be only one winner and all the losers have to die. The first game is green light, red light. Basically, players have to make their way from one side of the yard all the way over to the other side of the yard. They can move when the light is green and they cannot move when the light is red. They quickly understand the game and start moving on green. However, when the light goes red, a number of players are shot and killed, and therefore panic ensues. This ultimately means that a lot of players panic because it's still a red light, and they end up losing and getting killed as well. The players that stay calm and focused slowly begin to understand the rules of the game and start moving forward when it is green. Some players decide to aggressively go after it and start moving and try to anticipate when the lights will go red and stop beforehand. Others continue to run and go as fast as they can. However, sometimes their momentum continues on after the light has gone green and they end up dying as well. Some people decide to go way too slow and they get timed out of the game and killed as well. It's probably strange for me to try link this game back to real estate investing, but I think it can actually be quite easily linked back to some important principles for real estate investing and even investing in general as well. I suppose the first rule is understand the rules of the game and understand what you're actually risking as well. The second rule is don't panic at the first sight of volatility. The third lesson or rule would be move forward quickly, but do not let your momentum carry you too forward and knock you over. The fourth lesson would be do not be too slow to react. Do not be too fearful to take any risks, because if you don't take risks and you don't take action, you could end up being left behind and timed out. The fifth lesson is do not be afraid to follow in other people's footsteps. Some people in the red light and green light game actually followed behind other people. This gave them cover and also reduced their risk. This is an important lesson for anyone in investment or real estate investment. It's also important to learn from people who've gone before you, and I don't think this is the last time you'll learn this lesson from games within the Squid Game. I have to apologize, I have no idea how to pronounce the second game within the Squid Games, but basically it involved cutting out shapes from these honeycomb toffee discs. There was 4 shapes in all. At this point, the 400 odd players had whittled down to just over 200. Each player at this stage had to line up behind a certain shape. There was, I think, a triangle, a star, an umbrella, and perhaps a circle. And each player had to line up behind one of them without knowing what was involved within the game. However, it was clear and obvious that some people had an understanding of what was going to come, and a lot of them decided not to share that information. The players that knew what was coming picked the easier options, and the rest was down to blind luck. The players who picked the hardest option, i.e. the umbrella, when they discovered what the game was, panicked, and a lot of them failed within a few seconds because they panicked and they actually broke the disc. Some players did see if they adapted their strategy, they would be able to finish their game. The first lesson from this game is a lot of people don't like sharing information that they have, and a lot of people act like gatekeepers. However, in this circumstance, some people could have actually shared the information that they had and help some friends out. And as I'm sharing this information with you and trying to educate you guys in property investing, please show your love by subscribing and liking this video. When you compare the 4 shapes to real estate, you could easily say the circle is something like residential. It's quite easy, and most people who try their hand at it actually succeed. The triangle could be something like retail, a little bit harder and a little bit more complex. And development could be something like the umbrella, which is quite complex and you need to know what you're doing to succeed. It's important to enter into markets that you understand, and a lot of people find residential far easier to understand, and as you gain experience you can go on to more complex properties. The third game was tug of war. It was in teams, and the losing team would have fallen off a bridge to their death. However, when people were selecting their teams, they didn't quite know what they were selecting their team for. They didn't know it was going to be a tug of war. However, a lot of people did select teams, and I think this is an important lesson as well, because teamwork is so important when it comes to real estate investing. You need to have a team around you. You need to have very trustworthy advisors around you if you want to be successful long-term in property investment. Another important element of the Squid Games was the networking that people did before this event. People who had networked well before and got to know other people were easily able to find or build a team. However, the people who hadn't networked or communicated all that well with other people maybe were left out a little bit and were left to be last picked, or perhaps have very slim pickings in regards to what team they could pick. So these are two important lessons from this tug of war game. It's important to build a trustworthy real estate team around you when you are looking for long-term success in real estate. They will help you find deals, they will help you close deals, and they will help you manage problems as you manage your portfolio. And one of the most easiest and best ways to build a team around you is networking. In between one of the games, the Squid Game organizers turned off the lights, effectively trying to get the players to turn on each other. I think this is just an important metaphor for life, that sometimes your enemies will actually get you to turn on each other. I think the fourth game was marbles. Each player was asked to team up with one other person. Effectively, they thought they were going to be working as a team, and people picked either their friend or someone they thought might be strong. However, it turned out that they were going to be going up against each other. Each player was given 10 marbles and told that you had to come out with 20 marbles at the end of the timed out period, and the other person would die, and if neither player had 20 marbles, both players would die. The only rules were there could be no violence, so therefore people played lots of different games with these marbles. Some were skill-based games, some were a flick of the coin, and some were by chance. There was some cheating going on as well. But generally speaking, what held true was the people who actually decided on what the game was and understood the rules of that game that they were picking generally won out. This is an important kind of thing to learn as well in terms of negotiation and also picking the rules. So if you know what the rules are of the game and you decide what those rules are of the game, it's far easier to win. The next game, there was about 16 or 17 players left. There was no idea what the game would be, but players were given numbers from 1 to 16 or 17 to pick from, and some rush for different numbers, not knowing what the order of the numbers would actually mean. The next game was a glass bridge game where a number of glass blocks would break if you stepped on it and you would fall to your death. So it was very important to know what glass panel to step on moving forward. So in this case, the first player was at the most risk because they had to step on the glass panels and figure out which one was going to break and which one wasn't. Therefore, there was a huge amount of risk for people going first. However, there was also a huge amount of risk for people going at the end because there was a time limit to this game, and we're back to not acting fast enough. So if you're acting at the very start, you run a huge risk, and that's the same across all businesses as well. If you're the first to innovate at something, you take a huge risk. Look at search engines like Yahoo, and now Google took over. Look at Bebo and Facebook, and there's countless examples of people who've gone first end up suffering in the long term because who comes after them actually passes them out. But the bridge game also illustrates something very important in regards to following in someone's footsteps who has been successful and has actually achieved what you were hoping to achieve in terms of investment. So if you follow the strategies of successful investors and successful entrepreneurs in the past, you have a much better chance of actually achieving what you're looking to do. The last game in Squid Games is more about the violence in society, so I'm not going to try link that back to real estate investing. Also, any analogy in regards to the organizers of Squid Games, I think I'm not going to try link that back to real estate either. So what are the lessons you can take from Squid Games and apply to real estate investing? I suppose the first one is know the rules as much as you possibly can, including tax. Take on risk, but don't over leverage. Do not delay or you'll run out of time or you will be left with no deals whatsoever. Don't panic at the first sight of volatility. Keep a cool head. Networking is so important to long-term success. Building a trusted team is vital for a successful property portfolio, and learning from past successful investors is vitally important for you to move forward and follow in their footsteps. I suppose if you have enjoyed this comparison, please make sure to give it a like, share the video with any people who are interested in property investing or even Squid games, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. And as we are coming up to Christmas, spread some Christmas joy and please give us a like and subscribe.